A government report has revealed an estimated 50,000 people are likely to leave New Zealand for good over the next 12 months, with living costs rising in New Zealand and higher wages available in Australia. Who would blame them? So what should the government be doing about it? Here to discuss this with us this morning is National Party leader Christopher Luxon. Good morning, Christopher.
Morning, Melissa. How are you?
I'm very well, and I don't know, there's young people in this country who are probably well, but also looking for better times overseas. So what would you say right now, if you can to convince a person why they should stay in New Zealand?
Oh, look, I've travelled all around the world. I think New Zealand's a great place. I have to say to you, though, that, the OE is an everyday sort of, or a real rite of passage, I guess, for Kiwis. And we want Kiwis to be able to travel. But what we don't want them doing is choosing to leave New Zealand because they don't think it's a place of opportunity where they can get ahead. And I think you're right. I think for young people today, and the ones that I talk to up and down the country, they're saying, look, my wages are low relative to Australia, the housing's cheaper, and the cost of living is almost half. And so we don't want them thinking that there's more opportunity in other places for them to settle long term and to be able to leave our country and have our talented brain drain sort of exit this place. And so we've got to work much harder at making sure this is a place where people feel they can start up a business, they can make something happen in their community, and it's a great place to raise their families. And so first and foremost for me, the government needs to get a much better grip on this cost of living crisis. So that's about managing inflation. Today we're going to see interest rates be announced. They're either going to go up another 25 or 50 basis points already this year. If you're lucky enough to own a home, your interest costs have gone up $8,000 on a $700,000 mortgage. The government has to do a few things. It can't just leave it to rising interest rates. It has to be able to control and rein in spending, and it also has to support businesses much better.
So given all of that, I mean, you couldn't blame young people for looking overseas. And as you say, you went over in your 20s to do your OE, and it took a while for you to come back. Would you deny young people that same experience?
No, I reckon travel is one of the great things that makes us so special as New Zealanders. It was interesting when I lived in the States, if you went and did an OE, it was considered a loss of focus and you weren't serious about your career. But I honestly think for us as Kiwis, the ability of us all to travel, the fact that in pre-COVID times we had 1 million of us overseas, 5 million in the country, we're well travelled. It's actually part of our education. It's part of our perspective that we build as Kiwis. But what we don't want happening is New Zealanders deciding the long-term options for them to raise their families and to make a contribution sits in another country.
Okay,
I think we want to make sure it's a place that migrants can come to as well.
Yeah, so you're saying, fair enough, young people go, we understand that, as long as you come back. In terms of the National Party's immigration policy right now, currently it's all about keeping migrants who are here, skilled migrants who are here, keeping them. So what are you looking to do to bring in new skills? Because that is what businesses need right now, isn't it? They're saying that there's just simply shortages and not enough people coming in.
Yes, sorry, Mel, you're breaking up a little bit, but I think I understood the gist of the question, which was around sort of what are we doing to bring skilled workers into New Zealand and migrants. We are a party that really believes in immigration. We believe that migrants have a huge value to a lot of contribution to make to New Zealand. And you're right, across all sectors of New Zealand, we're short of workers at the moment. And so, we've sent a message to the world that we're fundamentally closed for business. If you're a migrant coming to New Zealand, you might be a nurse or a doctor. There is currently no pathway to residency. That's much clearer when you look at Canada or Australia or other places. And so, we've got to, if we want to attract the best, we actually have to be the best in terms of an immigration system and an Immigration New Zealand response, and we're not at the moment. And so I really hope that we can really start to open up those borders, we can get those critical and essential workers here, and that migrants can feel this is a place that they can come and they can make something of themselves because this is a place of opportunity.
How would you make it easier for them? Because, as I say, right now, currently it's just National Party policy is to make it easier for those who are already here and need to extend their visas. But there's nothing really at the moment that is pointing to attracting new skilled migrants here.
Oh, no, look, Mel, I mean, it starts on all sorts of categories of visas. You would have seen us in the last few weeks saying, look, if you want to get the tourism sector up and running, we've got to do a much better job of making a much more competitive offering for working travellers, working holiday backpackers that want to come here and work in kiwi fruit or work in tourism. We should be out there promoting New Zealand. We need to waive the fees. We need to extend the age. If you've been here once, you can come back a second or third time. The same thing needs to happen. If you think about our healthcare workforce, we haven't been approving those people and actually getting getting them here. And if you're, we saw it in Otaki, right? A doctor had 1,300 regional patients. He wanted a pathway to residency. He wanted to settle here. He ends up leaving here, probably going to Canada, and now we're advertising for his job in Scotland again. So our system isn't working. We're not offering the best immigration experience. And when you don't have a pathway to residency, we don't make it clear about how you could become ultimately a New Zealand resident or citizen. That's something we've got to do. Every country is able to do that, and we need to do that soon.
I just want to move on to Ukraine now. As we heard earlier, they are investigating potentially chemical weapons being used in Mariupol, but that hasn't been verified. But it's a very serious allegation, and the UK Parliament has said that if that was proven to be the case, then all options would be on the table, which is also quite a serious statement to make. Are you comfortable with that, given that we are now giving money directly to fund weapons that would be procured through the UK?
Look, I think our actions as New Zealand have been entirely appropriate and proportionate. I'm really pleased to see the commitments that we've made in the last week, because I think we're now aligned with our partners, and whatever Ukraine needs us to do, we should stump up and do.
And
so, it's really alarming.
On those commitments, Rear Admiral James Gilmore said yesterday that clearly our position has changed from a position of neutrality. In your mind, are we technically at war?
No, I think what we're doing is we're supporting our partners, and we're being a good partner, and that's exactly what we were asking for. And we're making sure that whatever Ukraine asks us, whatever our partners want us to be able to contribute, we're in lockstep with them all. We're actually here to defend Western liberal democracies. All New Zealanders have watched what's happening in the Ukraine. We've all got attached to it. We've seen the images. They're disturbing. It's an affront to human rights. It's an affront to democracy, and it's an affront to global peace and stability. And so we're playing our role, and that's all that we wanted the New Zealand government to be able to step up and do, and it's good that we're doing it.
Just finally, we are expecting an announcement today on the traffic light settings and whether we move to orange. It's a tough time for bars and restaurants, particularly nightclubs that haven't been able to have people in to dance. But Easter weekend, it might be not the ideal timing for them, because there will be, of course, restrictions on trading on Friday and Sunday. Do you think, or would you be on board with perhaps turning a bit of a blind eye to some of those rules being, a little bit vague this weekend?
Look, I think the real problem, Melissa, is that there's no reason for a traffic light system, in my view. We've been saying for months now that actually it's built on vaccine passes and mandates. The relevancy and utility of those has diminished over time. What New Zealanders need is just some basic rules, masking, home isolation, and those sorts of things. We don't need a complicated traffic light system.
Masks to stay in orange then, for indoors, for schools?
Yeah, as I said to you, I just don't see the relevancy of a traffic light system. I think it's a complication
but you
we
do
don't
say
need.
Masks should stay?
Yeah, obviously we support the other piece of the protocols. We need masks indoors. I don't think we need a 200 people limit in cafes. And obviously we need 7 days isolation if you're actually a case or a close contact. If the risk changes, we go back to the tool set and we put more tools and mitigations in place. But the risk now is changed, as we talked about with Omicron. And as a result, I think the traffic light system is just a confusion and complication we don't need.
National Party leader Christopher Luxon. Chris, thanks very much.